to my channel. It has been a while. I'm Nessie. We're doing another masking and bemoaning, even though you will see I don't have a mask on. The only mask I actually have on is this lip mask from Fenty, because I'm chappy, and this hair mask from Nigis Banda. It's for health and strength, so that's what I'm doing. That's what's going on with my hair at the moment. But it's spooky season, so we're getting into spooky movies. Have a plan. I'll talk about that in another video. We don't need to go through all of that, but it's been a while since I've been here. It's 5 months to be exact, because your girl just ain't been inspired, and your girl actually does have a real job. So today we're actually going to be reviewing a couple of things, and I've streamlined them so they would be a little better. So and it's going to be, spooky edition. Insert bat, because it is, or, ghoul or anything like that. Because it is Halloween, and people have come out swinging. They started a little bit before, like the piece that I'm reviewing today. That's going to be Netflix Midnight Mass. And we're going to just kind of streamline it, and I'll insert or at least put a link to my criteria, which is going to help us going forth from then, because they kind of were all over the place. But I'm going to try to do at least 10 movies through October, even though technically this one did not start in October. It actually started at the end of September going into October, as it normally does. Like I said, Midnight Mass. I'll have inserts of people and all that kind of stuff. Midnight Mass is on Netflix. It is by Mike Flanagan, which, if you are familiar with him, he is the person that does The Hill House, or The Haunting of. Even though he said he's not going to be doing The Hauntings of for a minute, but like Midnight Mass is like the haunting of a town. It's not the haunting of sea shanty like this town was, but yeah, Midnight Mass. It all goes into it, and to let you know, this is gonna have spoilers, even though it's not gonna get that deep. How long is it? It's 7 episodes, roughly about an hour. Some are come a little under an hour, and some come a little over, so they balance about 7 hours. Any familiar faces? Yes, we got Kate Siegel, Rahul Kali, Hamish Linklater, Henry Thomas, and Kate Siegel have been in several of Mike Flanagan's pieces. One, Kate Siegel, which when I was researching, because I was like, I see her all the time, and I've seen her, of course, in all these features from Mike Flanagan, including Dr. Sleep. That I was wondering why I had seen her before. It's like, well, actually, she is married to Mike Flanagan, and they have kids. They've been together a long time. Henry Thomas, he has normally played the father figure in several of these pieces, so it's not a new sitch, if that makes sense. Okay, what is the gist of this? According to IMDb, and y'all, I'm looking down at my notes. Yeah, so you can't really see it. All right, it's the arrival of a charismatic priest brings miracles, mysteries, and renewed religious fervor to a town. Fever, same. Okay, so that's the gist. Starts off with a character called Riley Flynn. I'll insert the actor. I've seen him before, and I couldn't place him, but he's not as well known, because again, like, this particular piece is chock full of familiar faces. His name is Riley Flynn. Riley starts off that Riley does not think that he is worthy of redemption, because basically he gets drunk, he kills a girl with vehicular homicide. So he goes to jail, and his big thing was that he got out of the town, and the town is it's a made up sea town. Just say it's in mid-Atlantic, coastal. It's giving me Boston, it's giving me New England, it's giving me New York, but it's a small, anywhere there where there's clusters of islands, and they always allude to, getting on to the ferry to go into the big city to go do certain things that the island does not have. So it's a small sea island. The island has been down on their luck for years. They're fishermen by trade, including Mr. Flynn, who is played by Henry Thomas, like we said. So everyone in this town does that. Very, it's like this one church, even though there are different denominations. Although we do, like, our sheriff of the peace is a devout Muslim. Yeah. So even that was interesting. So it does tackle, how we can get caught up in, anyone can get caught up in a group. So when Riley ends up going, we see it through his eyes, to the point that you think that Riley is the actual leading character, which he is, but I would always, through my eyes, from watching this is an ensemble piece, as Mike Flanagan's pieces tend to be, because if you look at it, honestly, I was like, if I was really gonna pick a main character, it would be Father Paul. That's just what we call him, because it gets confusing. It's not confusing when you watch it, but if I were to explain it, it's kind of confusing. But anywho, Father Paul comes back in town because the Monsignor Pruitt, old man, of course, and just to clarify, everyone in the town, for the most part, the one church is a Catholic church. So there's no nun, even though there is someone who's called Bev, who I would say is the actual villain of the piece, even though it's just, this is a look into human nature and things that we let go through. So, yes, but her name is Bev. I've seen, and I'll insert her here. She is the only, you can meet some of us that are Christians, and even I don't know how it works for other denominations or faiths, but someone in your congregation who thinks that they're more saved than everyone. That's what Bev is getting me, to the point that we will be like, that is very unchristian, that you can't act like you're more saved than anybody else, which that just makes you a hypocrite. But that's one of the things that this examines. So again, they sent the church in general, they sent the Monsignor Pruitt to Israel, and he had, basically the story is that he had fallen ill while he was in Israel, and that's why Father Paul had come into town to take his place, because the Monsignor is sick, because he's an old man. He's like almost, if not 80, he's right there, but he had already been had kind of signs of dementia, and just different things that he would be having anyway as a older person. So to the point when they explained it, looking at it, that even though Father Paul he's charismatic, like he had a great sermon / homilies, great, and he's really believe what he says. So that, but there's something shady, to the point that Riley does not trust him. But Riley also has a arguing with himself with his faith because of his decision that he made, which cost that young girl her life. Even though he went to jail and still has to go to AA, and he does all of that, he still does not think that he's worthy of forgiveness, which has made him not believe in God. But of course, Father Paul wants to work with him, and they start their own AA chapter there, because everyone in the town is hurting. Everyone has known each other their whole life. They've only known in this town. So, all right, turns out that the Father Paul is the Monsignor Pruitt, because as we get a story on down the line, he comes across, Father Pruitt gets lost in Israel, and he ends up on the road to Damascus, much like Paul. So y'all see the connection if y'all are any, kind of a Bible scholar. But he comes across, gets lost out in the desert, because Israel in Palestine, that area is desert for the most part. He gets lost outside of Jerusalem or on the road to Damascus while he's doing like the Stations of the Cross and all that kind of stuff that you can do. Now, would I recommend doing it now? That's a whole nother bag of worms, so we're not gonna get into that. But anywho, and then he's an old man who's already had, kind of dementia going on. Anyway, you know, he was there by himself. He got lost from his group. He ends up in this cave, and he says he comes across this angel. Now, when I'm going to insert this picture, I'm going to call him Father Creature. Father Creature. We do not know if he is an angel, even though, or he's a demon. But, you know, I'm going to say he's basically, you know, spoiler alert, a vampire. Even though I will say, and then we'll come back to this point, it is often pressed that because it's set in current time, that they are very careful not to say the word vampire, which I thought was interesting. And also interesting because Mike Flanagan really doesn't do like creatures in his thing, but there's a creature, and he goes from the senile, well, that's not nice, having the dimension Father Pruitt to going to Father Paul. Like, he reverts back, he de-ages back to his younger self, but he's, you know, to the point that he's so old that the people that are kind of alive now, except for somebody else who's also like old and having kind of the same kind of symptoms of dementia, which we do see in there, actually the woman that he ended up, you know, falling in love with, even as a priest, and you know, a priest cannot get married in the Catholic Church. So, and they have a kid who is the doctor of the town, all that. But to the point that anyone that's alive now, even like Riley's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Flynn, don't recognize this young man to be, you know, Father Pruitt, because, or Monsignor Pruitt, because that's how old he is. And they have been in this, everyone's been in this town their whole life, except for like the sheriff. The sheriff did come in from New York City. He moved there after he got his posting, because he basically joined. It's an interesting story with him. He joins the police force, you know, after, of course, things, you know, that happened with 9/11, and he wanted to basically show, you know, which we do as minorities, that, you know, he's one of the good ones, because, you know, specifically he is Muslim and brown, you know, so he's dealing with that, and he does not go to church, obviously, because he's a devout practicing Muslim, and even though, you know, he has to battle with the prejudice of him being a Muslim, and then, and honestly, it's not even from everybody, but it's like, we're going back to Bev, but like I said, Bev is a villain, even if she didn't turn into a creature with everyone else. So yeah. But anywho, back on the road, the one thing that's interesting about Father Paul, that's what I'm just gonna call him, / Monsignor Pruitt, is that he truly believes what he says, and he his earnestness is you know, it's heartwarming. I love to see things where people believe what they say, not just like, he's really trying not to be a hypocrite. To the point, like, I honestly think he believes that the creature is an angel, but there's nothing to dispute that this creature isn't, because isn't an angel like the way that we think of angels? But someone did bring up, and it might have been him, that anytime in the Bible where you saw an angel, that everyone freaked out, immediately scared. But I will also insert a picture of biblical angels versus, you know, angels we see on TV, who just look like, you know, very beautiful humans, you know, which, you know, not to say that they didn't appear to them at some point in time like that, but yeah, for the most part, you know, people were afraid because they look like something out of a nightmare. So he brings that up. But anywho, going through that, the creature is what it's helping spark these miracles in town, and like I said, the town's down on its luck. They need every win that they could get. It's because the creature's blood is being put into the communion wine. So there's a girl who is, you know, paralyzed from the waist down, a paralytic because of the town drunk accidentally shot her while he was out hunting. Shot her in the spine. She gets up and walks again. The doctor's mother It was also having signs of dementia, but she basically reverts back to her youthful young self, to the point like her daughter now looks older than her, that kind of thing. Because I think that the actor actually is older than that. Great makeup too. But yeah. And even the Flynns, the people that had minor problems, were saying, like, the mom was saying, she can't see as well. The dad was like, his back was hurting. And, now none of that is. And you see people gradually get back to their younger self. Because, of course, they got the good creature/vampire blood. So everything is coming up roses. And to the point, that brings us how we get the actual name of the piece. It's Midnight Mass, because they're vampires. We cannot have mass because it's all culminates around Lent and leading up to Easter. So by the time they have Easter Mass, it has to be at midnight, because the Father Paul is a full-blown vampire at this point. And it honestly, what it takes, and that it's creepy. My favorite part of the whole piece, the only part that was funny to me, where the big thing is revealed after he gives his Easter homily speech, that the creature, comes into the church and wearing a robe, which was the only part that was hilarious to me. It wasn't supposed to be. I'm sure if I was in the church, I would be fully afraid, like they were. They were playing it right. It was just funny to me because he walked down like there was nothing out of place about him doing that. So hilarious to me. And locked the church doors and basically, made everyone a vampire. And the few people that didn't, the townspeople, of course, had black bloodlust because they only die for a little bit. They put rat poison in the wine. It was giving me very, Jonestown to do that. But of course, the whole locking of the doors and getting and trapping people the way they didn't essentially have a choice. That was not Father Paul's plan. Like it got away from him quick. Bev took over. They started burning the town because anyone else would be, a sinner doesn't deserve the everlasting life of salvation that we were getting, basically becoming vampires. That's how it's flipped. And of course, it all, as it would do, it just goes, to crap. And to the point that the town is burnt down, even the place where they're supposed to nest. So when it all finishes up in the end, everybody burns up. There are like 2 people that survive, and they're both the kids, because the Flynns, the parent Flynns, basically, help them get away. And that includes Lisa, who is the girl that was paralyzed, and the little younger Flynn, the little brother, whose name I can't recall. I'll insert it if I remember. So yeah, it all goes to everything. Like, it just got away. Like, y'all are literally hunting the people you've known your whole life down. Yeah, and like another main character, Erin, she's also, that's Kate Siegel. She ends up being the one that weakens the creature, so they can't leave the island, because the people that did escape, that did not become swept up in the fervour, it was like 5 of them, including those kids. They burned up the boats so they couldn't get to the main ferry, and he can't spread the gospel, which basically spread vampirism throughout the island, or to go into the big city, so it's contained. But while he is feasting on her, the actual father creature, she is, poking holes or stabbing holes into his wings so he can't get off. And that's basically the gist. Like in most Mike Flanagan films, there are essentially no winners, and it ends up being quite sad. Yeah. Even the people that do, live, is like a traumatic experience. That's the same thing that happened in not the same thing, obviously, in Hill House and in Blythe Manor and in Dr. Sleep. Even though they didn't necessarily die, it's still, quite sad, or something feels unresolved. The main characters don't live, or yeah, it's just a sad situation all the way around. So that is the gist of it. I was supposed to to make this side kind of short. It was not. I'm going to stay under 30 minutes. That is what we're doing. Okay, is it family friendly? No. Is it scary? We do this on a scale from 1 to 5 spooky scary skeletons. And I give it a 3 on the scary scale, because I would say this is not necessarily a scary movie. It is just a piece on the way humans behave. It mainly looks at, you know, us, human nature. So that, which leads me in, is it worth your time? Yes, because while this is not scary to me, even though this is like a horror thriller or even suspense, it is well written, it's well acted, it is well great cinematography throughout the whole thing. Even though I will tell you that this does go kind of slow, just as a movie goes, because there's always a build up, because Mike Flynn likes to tell you the whole story. It does keep me interested throughout, so that's what I'm looking for, and overall I'm gonna give the movie 4 out of 5. I also will say that another superlative of it is the hymns and the actual music of it. Like, and there are hymns that I'm familiar with from going from one Catholic school and just like from going to church. So it said beautiful. And then, like I said, everybody did their things. This is definitely worth your time. Like 4 out of 5. Finally, my quick questions just to sum everything up that I have that was not necessarily in the piece. I'll go back to it. Is the creature a vamp, angel, or demon? And then how old is said creature? Second question, will we ever see the kids that escaped in the end in another piece again? Even though I will say that Mike Flanagan doesn't necessarily revisit, but it would be nice if he did, just to get a follow-up. And so it's open-ended, because we also guess that the creature died, but we're not sure for sure. And then finally, does any of the lore connect besides having some of the same actors? Because it did get brought up to me, I don't know if you've seen Gerald's Game, which is based on a Stephen King novelette, but Mike Flanagan did something. He might have been a director. I'll put in his role in that, or even if he was the writer. That someone did bring up that the creature does resemble the creature in there. So the creature that is, you know, that we again have said, Father Creature, who is not specifically said to be a vampire. And we know, like, when we see other pieces from, you know, your Stephen King or even Mike, it is crystal clear that the creature is, like, we know that the creatures in Salem's Lot, and even in this new Chapel-wide that's on Epix, we know that those creatures are specifically vampires. It's called out that they're vampires, but they were like careful to say that they were very careful in saying that this was not, well, they didn't say that it was not, but they were very careful never to mention that this creature is a vampire. So that was interesting to me. All right, so I know this is rambling, but hopefully this gave you the overall gist. That still thinks it cuts down on time. Hope you like this way that we're doing it now. And you know, I'm gonna be dropping a couple every week. I'm gonna try to keep them on the same days. You know, here we are. Well, thanks for tuning in. If there's anything else you are watching or want to watch, you know, check us down below. What did you watch this movie? Did you watch this series? Did you watch Midnight Mass? Did you like it? How did you feel about it? Slow burn and all. Yeah, those are my thoughts. Thanks for tuning in. Nessie loves ya. Bye.